My name is Colonel Ava Ross. I'm 38 years old, a newly promoted senior officer in the U.S. Army. I've spent the last 16 years in service, across 5 deployments and more night ops than I can count. I've celebrated holidays in bunkers, deserts, and on a cargo plane, once with a box of MREs and a string of battery-powered lights taped to the fuselage. But this year, after 3 years away, I finally came home for Christmas. I pulled into the driveway just after sunset. The house looked exactly as I remembered. Frosted windows glowing amber from inside, wreaths hanging on every shutter, the scent of pine and cinnamon already leaking through the seams. For a second, I let myself believe this was it, that this time they'd see me, that this time I'd walk through the door and someone might actually say, "We're proud of you." I adjusted my uniform coat, covering my rank, straightened my gloves, and walked toward the porch with more nerves than I ever felt in a war zone. As I reached the top step, a man in a rented tux appeared beside a podium, clipboard in hand. Event security. My parents had gone all out. He didn't even look up at first, just scanned the list with a penlight. Name? Ava Ross, I said. I'm the daughter. He looked down the list. He flipped the page. He ran his finger down the R section. He looked up at me, his expression flat. Sorry, ma'am, you're not on the list. I stared at him. Check again. Eric Ross. David Ross. That's my family. I see Eric and David, he said. I don't see an Ava. Unless you have a +1 invitation, I can't let you in. Private event. Behind him, through the glass, I could see them. My parents, my brother Eric, and even my old neighbor, Mrs. Grant. Everyone inside was dressed up, laughing, holding cider in delicate glass mugs. There was a buffet table lit with tiny fairy lights and a banner that read, "Future of the Navy." My brother was the reason. The celebration was entirely for his Navy Academy acceptance letter. I didn't argue. I didn't pull rank. I didn't tell the security guard that I outranked everyone inside that house combined. I just nodded once. Right, of course. I stepped back down, boots crunching in the snow. The cold didn't bother me. Not really. I'd felt colder sitting in my childhood living room some nights, but that moment on the porch, that rejection wrapped in polite event planner language, somehow stung sharper than any battlefield frostbite. My family knew I served. They just didn't really know what that meant. To them, I was always the one behind the desk, the one who organized logistics and typed up reports. Never mind the briefings I ran, the lives I helped save. That work never fit their idea of military pride, so it never counted. My job wasn't something they could brag about over cider and small talk, so they never mentioned it at all. And apparently, they didn't even think to put my name on the guest list of my own home. I didn't leave right away. Something kept me rooted at the edge of the driveway, just beyond the porch light's reach. The snow had started to fall again, soft flakes catching in my hair. I moved slowly around the side of the house, boots muffled by fresh powder, until I reached the bay window that looked straight into the living room. Inside, the party was in full swing. The fire crackled in the stone hearth, casting flickering gold shadows on the walls. Eric stood near the piano, dressed sharp in a navy blue suit, a fresh haircut, and a confident stance that made him look older than I remembered. My mother beamed at him like he was lit from the inside out. Someone clinked a glass. A voice rose, offering a toast to Eric's future. Cheers followed, loud and full of pride. I saw my dad raise his glass and slap Eric on the back. Eric laughed, that easy kind of laugh that only ever belonged to golden boys. It wasn't envy I felt. Not exactly. It was a deeper ache, the kind that comes when you see your own story erased in front of you. I could see the banner above the mantel. "Congratulations, Eric, our hero." He hadn't even started boot camp yet, but he was already a hero. I had spent 16 years in the dark, keeping monsters at bay, and I was a ghost. A little girl, my cousin's kid, sat on the floor playing with a model jet. She held it up and zoomed it through the air. Someone asked if it was like the one Uncle Eric would fly. The girl nodded and said, "He's brave." I wanted to look away. I couldn't. My hands stayed jammed in my coat pockets, one glove resting on the small velvet box I hadn't taken out all evening. Inside was a medal, a Defense Superior Service medal. It had been presented 2 weeks prior for a strategic operation that prevented a regional conflict. I had brought it here thinking maybe, just maybe, they'd want to see it. I hadn't even opened the box since the ceremony. My breath fogged the glass. I took a step back. No one inside noticed. No one turned. I was invisible to them before I left. Coming back didn't change that. My mother moved toward the dining room with a tray of drinks, her eyes passing right by the window where I stood in the dark. I watched them laugh together as if I'd never existed. When I finally moved, it was with the slow certainty of someone who'd made this walk before. I walked back to my car. I sat in the driver's seat, engine off, staring at the glow of the house. I pulled the metal box out. I opened it. The gold and silver glinted in the moonlight. I snapped it shut. I tossed it into the glove compartment next to an ice scraper and a tire gauge. They didn't want to see it, so they wouldn't. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just drove away from the house where my name had never quite meant enough to be remembered at the door. It happened just past midnight local time, 3 months ago. I was seated at the command terminal deep inside a secure operations hub outside Ramstein, watching a dozen feeds light up with movement. A civilian medical ship had gone dark near the Syrian coastline. Based on intercepted comms and a missing GPS ping, we knew it wasn't a malfunction. It was a hostile boarding by a militia group looking for leverage. The team on the ground was already suiting up. A 12-man special operations unit was en route, prepared for a rapid breach and extraction. From where I sat, I had access to drone visuals, satellite thermals, and real-time communications flowing in from 3 agencies. I was the mission commander. My call sign was Overlord. On paper, it was a textbook op. In practice, something felt off. The infrared showed 7 heat signatures clustered near the engine room. Hostiles. 12 more, spread out and restrained. Civilians. But then a second blip appeared on my screen. A skiff, smaller, approaching from the east, just outside normal radar scan. Low heat. I asked for a secondary sweep. 6 new heat sources lit up like matches in a dark field. I gave the order to hold. Overlord to Alpha Team. Hold position. Do not breach. On the comms, the unit lead pushed back. Overlord, we are on the clock. Hostages are at risk. We need to go. Negative, Alpha, I said, my voice steady. You have a secondary ambush team flanking your entry point. If you breach now, you walk into a kill box. I made them wait. 30 agonizing seconds. Then, drone footage confirmed it. The second team of hostiles moved into position exactly where our team would have been. Target acquired, I said. Engage secondary targets first. We redirected the team, a counterflank through an unexpected access hatch. The extraction took under 8 minutes, no casualties. All hostages accounted for. The op wrapped quietly. I logged the success, sent the debrief for secure review, and powered down my console. No press release was written. But 12 lives were saved that night because I trusted my gut and made the right call. I was still at my desk when the roster of rescued hostages came through. I scrolled through the names: civilians, contractors, and one Navy ROTC midshipman on a training internship. I froze. Ross, Eric, USN. I stared at the screen. I cross-checked the DOB. It was him, my little brother. He had been on that ship. He had been one of the 12 lives I held in my hands that night. He never knew. He never knew that Overlord, the voice that commanded the team to save him, was his sister. I couldn't tell him. The mission was classified. A few hours later, while I was still in the darkened operations room, my phone buzzed. Personal line. It was Eric. "Hey sis, crazy trip. Heading home soon. Hope DC isn't making you too boring. Don't drown in spreadsheets." I reread the text. It felt like someone had twisted a knife. He had just survived a hostage situation, saved by my command, and he was texting me about spreadsheets. I wanted to reply. I wanted to say, "I saw you. I saved you." But I didn't. I closed the message. The email came on a Tuesday morning, 2 days before Christmas. No subject line, just a routing code. I arrived at the Pentagon 15 minutes early. A junior aide met me outside the office. General Hargrove stood by the window, 4 stars. A man who didn't waste time. "Colonel Ross," he said, turning. "General, we need to discuss Operation Skybridge," he said. "The hostage extraction." "Yes, sir." "We are conducting a formal debrief with the survivors to identify the militia leaders," Hargrove said. "We need a first-hand account from the military personnel who were on board. That means Midshipman Eric Ross." He looked at me. "I understand he is your brother." "He is, sir." "He's currently on leave at your parents' home in Connecticut," Hargrove said. "We need to debrief him immediately. Intel suggests the militia is planning a second strike." Hargrove picked up a file. "I am going to conduct this debrief personally, and since you were the mission commander, I want you there. You know the details better than anyone." He paused. "I also understand you haven't told your family about your promotion or your role." "No, sir. They think I work in admin." Hargrove frowned. "Well, Colonel, we're about to correct the record. We leave in 1 hour." The driveway was full when we pulled up to my parents' house, but we didn't pull up in a sedan. We arrived in a convoy. 3 black government SUVs with tinted windows and diplomatic plates. 2 military police cruisers brought up the rear, lights flashing silently. The Christmas party was still going on inside. We pulled to a stop, blocking the driveway. The sheer presence of the vehicles was aggressive. It looked like a raid. I stepped out of the second vehicle. I was wearing my army dress blues, the heavy coat, the gold braid, the silver oak leaf of a lieutenant colonel on my shoulders, and on my chest, the fresh Distinguished Service Medal. General Hargrove stepped out of the lead vehicle. He adjusted his cover. "Ready, Colonel?" he asked. "Ready, General." We walked toward the front porch. The MPs flanked us, hands resting on their sidearms. The security guard at the podium looked like he was about to have a heart attack. He saw the general stars. He saw the MPs. He dropped his clipboard in the snow. "Open the door," Hargrove ordered. The guard scrambled to open it. We walked in. The warmth of the room hit me first, then the silence. 1 second, voices were raised in cheer. Next, the entire party stopped. Dozens of faces turned. Some were confused. Some were terrified. And right there, in the center of the crowd, stood my family. My father dropped his glass. It shattered on the hardwood, but no one moved to clean it up. My mother put a hand to her throat. Eric froze. He saw the MPs. He saw the general. His face went pale. He thought he was being arrested. He thought he was being deployed. General Hargrove didn't wait for an invitation. His voice carried, clear and steady, the voice of absolute authority. "I am looking for Midshipman Eric Ross." Eric stepped forward, trembling. "Here, sir." The room held its breath. "I am General Hargrove, Vice Chief of Staff," he said. "We are here regarding the incident on the MV Kestrel." Eric's eyes went wide. "The hostage ship. Am I in trouble, sir?" Eric stammered. "No, son," Hargrove said. "But we need your intel. We are tracking the cell that took you." Hargrove stepped aside. "However," the general continued, "I am not the one conducting this debrief. The investigation is under the authority of the officer who commanded the operation to save your life." Hargrove gestured to me. I stepped into the light. The room gasped. My father stared at me. He looked at the uniform. He looked at the rank. He looked at the medal. "Ava?" he whispered. I didn't look at him. I looked at Eric. "Midshipman Ross," I said. My voice was cool, professional, the voice of overlord. Eric stared at me. He looked confused. "Ava? What are you doing? You work in admin." "No, Eric," I said. "I don't." I took a step forward. "I am Lieutenant Colonel Ava Ross, commander of Joint Task Force Ares. And 3 months ago, when you were tied up in the hold of that ship, wondering if you were going to die." I leaned in. "I was the one watching you on the thermal feed. I was the one who ordered Alpha Team to hold the breach. I was the one who killed the ambush so you could walk out of there." Eric's mouth fell open. The color drained from his face. He remembered the operation. He remembered the precision. He remembered the extraction team saying, "Command says move now." "You?" Eric choked out. "You were Overlord?" "Yes." The silence in the room was deafening. My father gripped the back of a chair. "Colonel? But you said you typed reports." "I stopped trying to explain my job to you 10 years ago, Dad," I said, not breaking eye contact. "Because you never listened. You wanted a hero in the family so badly you didn't notice you already raised one." I looked around the room. I saw the neighbors who had ignored me. I saw the future of the Navy banner. "General Hargrove," I said, turning to my superior. "We can conduct the debrief in the study." "Lead the way, Colonel," Hargrove said respectfully. I turned back to Eric. "Let's go, Eric. I have questions about the timeline." Eric nodded, mute with shock. He followed me like a puppy. I walked past my mother. She was crying, but not the happy tears she had for Eric. These were tears of realization. The realization that she didn't know her own daughter. I walked past my father. He looked broken. He looked at me with a mix of awe and shame. "Ava," he started. I didn't stop. I didn't slow down. "We're working, Dad," I said. "Don't interrupt." We went into the study and closed the door. The debrief took an hour. Eric was shaking the whole time. He answered my questions, but he couldn't stop staring at my rank. When we were done, I closed the file. "That's all, Midshipman," I said. Eric sat there. "You saved my life," he whispered. "I did. Why didn't you tell me?" "Would you have believed me?" I asked. "Or would you have made a joke about spreadsheets?" Eric looked down. He knew the answer. "I'm sorry, Ava." "It's Colonel Ross while we are in uniform, Eric," I said gently but firmly. I stood up. "Dismissed." Eric stood up and saluted. It was sloppy, but it was sincere. I returned it perfectly. I walked out of the study. General Hargrove was waiting in the hall. "Good work, Colonel," he said. "We have what we need." We walked toward the front door. The party had died. The music was off. The guests were standing around, whispering. My father was waiting by the door. "Ava," he said, "please, stay, have a drink. Let us celebrate you." I looked at the banner for Eric. I looked at the Navy-themed cake. "This is Eric's night, Dad," I said. Enjoy it. But you're a colonel, my father said, as if saying the word made it real. We didn't know. You didn't ask, I said. I put on my gloves. General, the bird is waiting, I said. After you, Colonel, Hargrove said. We walked out into the snow. The cold air hit my face, but this time, it felt clean. I got into the back of the black SUV. As we drove away, I looked back at the house. I saw my family standing in the window, watching the convoy leave. They finally saw me. But they were looking at my taillights. I settled back into the seat. I didn't need their toast. I didn't need their party. I had the mission. And that was enough.